viewers, welcome to Political Platform on Raypower FM. My name is Amici Anakwa. Apologies for starting late today. We had some issues we needed to deal with. We didn't want to leave those on the YouTube behind, and we had to make efforts to really accommodate them. Kula Adewale is with me this morning. Kula, yes. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Amici. Good morning to all members of the audience on radio, offline, and on YouTube.
Okay, big weekend for APC, for PDP. Yesterday said there's no faction in PDP, and to a reasonable extent, he may be right. To a reasonable extent, he may be right because the Court of Appeal has said his group is the authentic PDP. So, if you want to stick with the law, you stick with him. Yesterday, also the other camp, led by the two remaining governors, as symbolized by Saminu Turaki, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who was the elected chairman at the illegal, for now, according to the Court of Appeal, Ibadan Convention, said they are talking. Perhaps they have word and have realized that there's need to come together. Both parties will lose if the matter gets to the Supreme Court. And so, if they meet now, you see some reason. Those extreme hardline positions you may not see. But as they're also preparing for their convention this weekend, just on Sunday after APC has done theirs, APC did zonal conference across the six geopolitical zones yesterday, elected zonal executives, and endorsed the president expectedly as the only candidate the party will present in the next general election. Well, that's for president,
for the presidential ticket, right? Well, good that the political parties are all getting their acts together and they're moving ahead of the electional campaign before it really starts. But then they must come up with their candidates and fill all the vacant posts first. Now, talking about the APC, something that came out, which I've had a few people talk about, is the issue of people being disenfranchised. People have talked about the fact that some aspirants paid for nomination forms, but they were not given those nomination forms. And I don't know why collect their money if you're not going to give them the forms, because it's an internal party thing, really, and they should ordinarily just let everybody know. If it's a political party, it's not a cult where one small group somewhere decides everything. They should let them know. Don't bother to pick up the form, because you can do it by consensus.
And that's what they did.
Yes.
Everywhere.
And so why collect
even money? The state congresses caused consensus.
All of them did that. One newspaper described it as Congress of Consensus. Congresses of Consensus. I think it's the Blueprint newspaper that describes it that in its main headline this morning. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just find it's curious that the party will collect money from aspirants and not give them.
There were those that they even refused to collect money from. Those that paid and wanted to get receipt and be issued with the forms, but they were just it's like cat and mouse game. And this is what happens in other parties, you recall. Even Sule Lamido, when PDP was preparing for his own convention in Ibadan, the one that was...
he also went to court.
Yeah, they denied him and he went to court and he got a judgment. Up to the Court of Appeal, they said you should have collected his money and issued it with a form. And when he feels you should collect it when he comes to return the form. So whether those in APC will go to court is unlikely, except one or two who said, no, I feel hugely discriminated against. But somehow they managed it. What we are hearing, the hues and cries are not much. So it appears their consensus has largely succeeded and worked out well.
I hope they'll find a way to resolve all their issues so that we also don't have long drawn out court cases affecting the political process in the near future, because if the Sule Lamido case is anything to go by, then you do know that there's a likely all of these things can just be amicably resolved so that the party can move on.
And they'll be moving on. Those are disenchanted, those that are not accommodated, those that will know from the handwriting on the wall that they will not likely get tickets, because very soon the primaries will come. They have limited time. They have up to April 4 to move. Because based on the Electoral Act, you must be a member of a party 21 days before convention, and 21 days before convention, that's when the party is expected to indeed drop their register of voters with INEC. So for those that want to decamp, you have up to April 4.
Just 9 days.
To make up your mind.
Just 9 days.
And I bet you see a lot, because it's not only at the presidential level that they have lifetime ambition. Even at state assembly level, they reduce with lifetime ambitions. And if they don't find accommodation in the party they will move.
They will move. And of course, we've had instances of people who moved from one party to the other and got what they wanted, because the party offered them the platform that they were denied in the other party. But like I said, 9 days, that's all they have. And that's ample time in politics to do whatever it is you want to do, to build bridges, to reach agreements, to make whatever arrangement you want to make and move to whatever party. But I think we need to also emphasize the need for internal party democracy to be strengthened, because it also affects our leadership recruitment system. Some of the time you find out that these people who are thrown up by consensus are not the very best that the party has to offer. But that criteria of he has not worked for us, he's not loyal, and all of those things, there are things that disenfranchise people who otherwise should be standing for election at some point. But anyway, it is what it is in Nigeria, and we just pray that the political parties will put their acts together and ensure that we can sanitize the political space in such a way that our best 11 will be willing to step forward and be part of the political process and be part of governance as well, because Nigeria desperately needs it.
Well, the first 11 you're talking about, they rarely show up because the processes are so entangled that they don't want to mingle and all that. So sometimes you see people that before long have been talks, parading the streets, take up elected positions. Unfortunately, that's where we have found ourselves. For the APC, no problem for them. At the presidential level, the president will get the ticket. He was endorsed all through. Then for the opposition parties, that's where their problem starts. The issue of lifetime ambition. I've always said there are 4 factors you must consider that guide how an opposition party can defeat an incumbent. And these are what APC in 2013, 2014, 2015 achieved, and were able to indeed displace the PDP. The first one is that you must have a popular candidate, a candidate that once you mention the name, people will be willing to put in money. And they found it in Muhammad Buhari. People contributed money, not waiting to receive money from the candidates, not waiting for the structure to be deployed, but people who will show commitment. They became the structure. They became the structure. So that's number one. Number two, the opposition must be united. In fact, they should even be number one. They must be united. You cannot get a place where, apart from Buhari and Jonathan, then there was no other. It was just a straight fight between them.
It was a 2-horse race then.
If you make it 3 horse, 4 horse, like we did in 2023, then the ruling party, you have hands off from the fight and say ruling party go on. That's number 3. There must be some people who are disenchanted within the ruling party. You must find fifth columnists who will either break away from the party or stay from within the party and undermine it, work against it. The new PDP did it.
You don't need to teach the
They pulled out.
You don't need to teach the PDP that. They did it well in 2003. That's how the Alliance for Democracy ended up losing 5 of the 6 states in the Southwest. It was only Lagos that survived it. Incidentally, Bola Tinubu, who is now president, was the governor, and he was the only one who survived it. Adebayo Adefarati, Adeni Adebayo, the governor of Osun State then,
Is it BC Akande?
Baba BC Akande, and of course Lam Adesina of blessed memory, as well as for your state then. All of them lost election, and the PDP took over 5 of the Southwest states. So the PDP knows what to do. When it's about looking for fifth columnists, they've always done it. They play that politics to that level, and I expect that not only will the PDP be mending fences within their own party now, they must reach out and build bridges, especially to their members who left and went to other parties, to reach out to them and find a consensus, because unless they get really organized and surpass what the APC did in 2013 and 2014 before the 2015 election, they may not be able to dislodge the APC even at state levels, because it is going to be really difficult. It's tough dislodging a ruling party. The APC managed it, and they did it because they were very well organized. They were very not just organized, they spoke with one voice. Remember that
You have to organize, you have to maneuver, you have to manage the ruling party.
outspend the ruling party.
Yes, and so the last one is that the ruling party or the president in power must be generally unpopular. So you mop up that sentiment, you build momentum, paint the man like they did to Jonathan. We paint him red, multicolors. You know, while we were doing fire hazards, was this secondary school, we were missing colors.
Splash.
Yes, water splash. So you mix everything and rub it on and take advantage of that unpopularity. Is the opposition doing it now? They are yet to agree on who will fly. A few months to the election.
Unfortunately,
It's less than 1 year to the election.
Yes,
they are yet to agree on who will be the candidate.
Election is in January.
Disorganized. They are not outwitting the APC. It's the APC that is outwitting them and all that. The APC is managing the entire processes, and the APC and this president appear to have had his grip on all the institutions that will be involved. So the opposition really need
they have their work cut out.
Yeah, big time indeed.
I must tell you, Amechi, that my main worry about the opposition is not just all the things we've outlined, but the fact that nobody really knows what they want to sell to the electorate. Because if you're talking about issue-based campaigns, what are the issues? How are they going to be able to tell Nigerians, tell the electorate to vote out an APC government led by Bola Tinubu? How will they manage that when even in their day-to-day interaction with the public, they do not give us alternatives to the government policies that are on ground now? And that was one thing that the APC did very well in 2013 and 2014, pre-2015 election. Give credit to the APC for that. They did very well.
They got a Buhari that they painted to be different.
Not only did they different, they came out with documents.
Yes.
Documents that they gave out to Nigerians.
They promised so much.
They promised a lot. Although when they got
promised $1 to $1.
Yeah, what they promised and what they delivered, they are two different things. But
promised restructuring. In fact, made it number one on their number one.
Yes.
And by the APC, the manifesto, 50-member manifesto committee submitted their report to the chairman, David Mark, yesterday. I think the security is number one, and I'm seeing restructuring at number 3 or number 4. APC made it number 1. They never really restructured. There were some restructuring done by the party in sense of decentralization, but the radical restructuring they promised, they didn't deliver.
No, they couldn't have delivered because, frankly, Amechi, because of the way government is run, there are things you will never know about government until you are in there. And then even when you get in there, there are pressure groups. I don't want to call them forces. There are pressure groups,
interest
groups that will constrict the space for you. Like I always say that when anybody becomes president, and I mean the word anybody who has been president, that office seems to entrap them, because you have to consider so many interests, and you have to really maneuver in order to be able to and no matter what you do, people, if you do it, they will say you did it. If you didn't do it, they will say you did. Why didn't you do it? So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So the office of the president is one that is really delicate in Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned. And I just pray that anyone who gets into that office has his head properly screwed on his shoulders, because if he doesn't have that, it could be derailed by the various interests.
I know what
some of
saying.
them unseen.
So you have two options, as the mails are ready now. Perhaps after the mail we'll close with that. When you get into office, who do you serve? It's just like the Israelites that had two options. They were torn between, do we serve Baal or do we serve God? That's the problem.
And Joshua told them, choose this day whom you will serve.
For me and my household,
we will serve the Lord.
So when you get into public office, choose who you will serve. Is it the interest of these elites whose their interest is bring the money and share? That's what they do. Or do you push the money to the people? There are instances where some politicians that got into office chose the people, spend money, left legacies. But the thing is that as you're spending on the people, these elites that are used to collecting, what they do is that they come to the government house, share the money and walk away. That's what they do. There are some governors that are, the former governor of Enugu State, if I right, that's what he did, was twice he was just sharing the money. There was nothing he could do in Enugu State. This present governor came in, they were complaining he wasn't picking anybody's call, he wasn't convening any meeting, he wasn't seeing anybody, because he knew that once they come, he's bring money, they'll tell you. So the big man, he silenced them and was transformed the city within 2 years. Now he's going to election, you need them.
And that's
because of the structure. And the bad thing is that the people you are investing in, if they are not sufficiently educated, the other interests will give them 2,000 and they will vote against because they think with their stomach. They are not thinking with their head. After what they will eat the next day. Yeah. So that's why education is very important.
I think
it's such a citizen we know identify the evil people when they come with spaghetti, all those food, bread and 5,000. They will identify them. If they are sufficiently educated, they will identify them and chase them away when they come. But
Amici, I recall that before we go to the mails, I recall that you talked about was a security center that the Enugu State government just built recently.
Command and control.
Yes, command and control. That's the phrase I was looking for. The command and control center. And the important thing is that when these things that are meant for the people are done, the people must also be made aware of the long-lasting effects, positive effects of those things. So maybe Governor Peter Mbah needs to also do a bit more of talking about what he's doing. Governor Adefarati of Ondo State made that mistake in 2003, because I was government house correspondent in Ondo State in 2003 elections, and all they were saying in government house was, oh, what we have done, our work will speak for us. Their work did not speak for them. They lost the election. If you don't blow your trumpet, somebody will bring a tuba from somewhere and blow it and outblow whatever you are saying.
You need to visit these government houses if you are an elite. If you are not an elite, if you move in, when you move out, will be in dollars. Yes, I can tell you that they share the money to them in dollars. It's like an entitlement. We are the owners of this state. We are the owners of this country. You go and see the presidency, the governor, the security vote in Ibadan. They were complaining. You late Adedibu. You are supposed to be giving me how many percent he said.
he said he just wanted something for pure water. That was what.
Yes, that the then governor, the current
Olubado
was not dishing out to him the way they should. So if you are an elite, and I've seen if they move in the dollars they come out with, if they slam it on you, God has blessed you. So it's a choice between the man in authority. Do you want to share the money to the elite and make them happy, or do you want to work for the people? Let's hear what the people are saying.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amechi. You're now listening to the mail segment on Political Platform. I am Aricha Ojiti.
And I am Chidera Izudui. Our first mail from Lagos is from Emmanuel Nkama, who says, please permit me to observe that the Minister of Power, Adela Bubayo, apologized to Nigerians for the day epileptic power supply in Nigeria promises improvement in 2 weeks. And this is like shedding crocodile tears and beating a child and still forcing the child not to cry. The Minister of Power has failed and should just go and face his governorship election ambition in his state. What happens to the vow the president made to Nigerians that if we vote for him for second term, he will solve the power crisis? Sadly enough, millions of Nigerians are paying for darkness, especially the common citizens. Example, the artisans, barbers, hairdressers who cannot afford solar panels to manage their micro businesses. Here's appealing to the president to find a lasting solution to this epileptic power supply and rising cost of fuel because of the negative way it is impacting on the lives of vulnerable Nigerians. Let the fuel subsidy be returned temporarily, if not permanently, to cushion the economic hardship of the people due to the ripple effects of the Israel-US war in Iran.
John Peters, writing from Port Harcourt, says, after classifying Nigerians into band B and A to D and pushing many households into higher electricity tariffs and then promising Nigerians of improved power supply, yet darkness still lingers across homes, businesses and communities struggling to survive. Before we knew it, billions of naira were used for the disconnection of Aso Rock from the national grid into solar power, a move that deepened public concern of Nigerians. Many Nigerians wondered if uninterrupted power supply can be secured for the seat of power. Why must the masses remain in darkness? In the midst of this, Adebayo Adelabu, the Minister of Power, apologized for poor supply and promised 6,000 megawatts. Is this not a joke? Nigerians welcomed the apology, but what they truly need is performance, not projections, not promises, but visible light in homes and industries. Now, as political ambitions rise and new offices are sought, and we know that Adelabu is eyeing the seat of power in Oyo State, the question remains, who will deliver the power that has been promised? Nigerians are wary of commitments that fade after the headlines.
And from Apo in Abuja, Edward Ishaya is saying, for the optimists like Dr. Amechi who believes that Nigeria cannot get to a one-party state, here is newsflash. Nigeria is already a one-party state. How can you explain the unbridled defections of elected office holders to the ruling party in clear violation of the law? How do you also explain the fact that defection to the ruling party is very much in order, but defection to an opposition party reminds us that there is a provision of the law that is against defection? How do you also explain the fact that even within a political party, it is one man that seems to have the power to determine what happens and what shouldn't happen? What happens to the political party's internal democracy? Nigeria is already manifesting the KPI of one-party states. We only need to reverse the course.
Emeka Mba, writing from Abuja, says, after a long battle for the party's leadership structure that gave rise to intense internal crisis and legal disputes, the Tamil Turaki and Nyesom Wike factions have given hints that fresh reconciliation efforts are in progress to unite the PDP. In preparation for the fast approaching 2027 general elections, this is a welcome development, hoping it is not too late in the day as its members in the elective and appointed offices and also aspirants have almost emptied into the ruling APC. I make bold to submit that love or hate Nyesom Wike, I give it to him that I give it to him for having the upper hand against all odds and leaving his opponents bloody-nosed in every fight as they swallowed his terms and conditions. His contentious personality is interesting and needs to be studied. Glaringly talking and working anti-party activities like never seen before, can't be disciplined and still in control of the party. Takes his children around official duties like PAs and SAs, and one teaching them in his private businesses with a view to taking over from him. And no qualms at all amidst this. His developmental strides is remarkable as he has opened up the FCT in just 2 years in an unprecedented way, and the locals called the original inhabitants of FCT have never known it so good with infrastructural developments in the rural areas. Well, at least he's delivering excellently on the job, unlike his counterparts in power and some other sectors who are failing, and instead of honorably resigning, they are apologizing.
At this time from Wuse here in Abuja says the amended Electoral Act that was signed into law by the President stayed more than 1 year at the National Assembly. And all through this period, does it mean that the opposition politicians did not read its contents? Because it is surprising now that it is after it was signed into law, they started to contest some provisions of the law. What were they all doing throughout the time the bill was being deliberated upon? Pure laziness from them.
And Dixon Eka, writing from Abuja, finally says, in this country, the only government palliative that gets to everybody is fuel subsidy. And at a time where the entire world is battling with the unaffordable petroleum product prices due to the war in the Middle East, the best thing the government can do is bring a temporary subsidy on petroleum products to cushion the effect of the new order that's crippling the economy and everything. The trillions of naira that was said to be used as palliatives in CNG kits, 70,000 for millions of poor people, which politicians and other privileged people are diverting to be used for fuel subsidy. The trillions of naira that was said to be used as palliatives in CNG kits, 70,000 for millions of poor people, which politicians and other privileged people are diverting to their pockets, could be enough to be used for fuel subsidy, just like many other countries have done, and it will reach both the rich and the poor, and it will ease inflation, and the country will be better for it. Fuel subsidy that reaches everybody directly and indirectly is not a scam. Other unverifiable palliatives are the true scam.
That is how far we can go on the mail segment. Keep sending in your mails with your name and location to politicalplatform@darkgroup.com.
Thank you so much for the mails from YouTube channel. Lawrence Marian Jones is saying the opposition has been churning out alternative policies through P2B. He has been speaking and setting the way it should be. And he also says, okay, this one is different. Prince Lesami Michael Obat, he says the opposition is going to tell Nigerians the pains this government has imposed on the entire Nigerian nation. Dr. 3260 said Aminu Kano did that well, focused on the people, talking about choice of you stay with the people or you stay with the elites. And he says Aminu Kano stood with the people. He did not just stand with the people, he preached it. That was his own ideology, politics of the Talakawas, the downtrodden. He told everybody that I'm coming into the government because of the vulnerable people, the ordinary people, and he did exactly what he has promised. It's been difficult to see after him governments or someone who focused on the people the way the great Aminu Kano did.
Yeah, the politics of money that we play these days will not allow that, because if you know Aminu Kano very well, he wasn't a man that was given to a lot of wealth and all of that, and he was truly a man of the people. Adebayo Bodroni is an acolyte of Aminu Kano. But then, when you talk about, let me quickly address the man who said Peter Obi has been talking about alternative policies. I'm yet to see a proper articulation of those policies and how they will work out. That's what I would love to see. It does not mean I'm against Peter Obi or I'm in support of APC. I'm just stating the facts as they are. Let's see an articulation of what I will do if I were president. If I want to remove fuel subsidy, these are the things I would do, or I will not remove it. Tell us exactly, step by step, what plans you have for the people. Don't Don't come and tell us something on the surface level and don't disclose to us what your plans are to activate those things and make them take root and affect the lives of the people positively.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll come back tomorrow for another edition. Have a good time. My name is Amit Chanapwe.